Okay. Hello, everyone. So, welcome, everyone. I have to finish part 1 in with 32% battery life. And I was thinking about an event in the future and how our species, if it finds other species beyond the atmosphere, how it will go about having poetically interstellar diplomacy. So this means that if there are others, okay, much better. Oh my god. This music. This is it. Okay, so I don't know what it is, but I find that the human being right now on this planet is obsessed with individualism. Think about it, that in order to be a complete universal being, you need to experience different phases of the universe. Imagine just like a person who wants to buy a house. Imagine you have come to visit this world. Imagine that the logos is the real estate agent, and imagine you are like the person who's looking for new real estate. The forces of nature are giving every human being that is born an introduction to where they are. You see, whether anything good or bad happens, there's something called moral relativism. What that means is, even though actions happen, how right they are and how wrong they are has to do with the context of the time. I might say something and people in 2023 are like, who is this guy? But maybe in 100 years, everybody's going to be like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? We cannot ignore how energy cannot be created or destroyed or changes from form to form. You see, the human being is being considered in accordance to its intelligence. Whether you're an atheist or you're a theist, you're believing in some sort of eternalism, over either the eternalism of particles, the elements in the periodic table, or the eternalism of consciousness. There are pretty much two things that human beings could have eternalized. Do you know their material existence, their physical existence, and their non-physical awareness of their physical existence? The reason I've written when other lives meet other lives is because from a universal context, everything that is happening in this universe can be considered the universe's life. Do you understand? A person may not be able to say, I am the universe, but the universe can say, I am a person. This is a very important distinction. You know, when I was younger, I was duped. I was deceived. But I was very beautifully and professionally deceived. Do you understand? That means there's a type of deception, you know it's deception, like you figure out or you get the sense of it before. But then there's a type of deception, you don't even know it's deception. You think the deception is reality. You know, there was this picture on Facebook. Some person had drawn this guy who's behind bars, but it's this weird caricature. It's not like normal, it's not like a prison. It's just like these bars, and this guy's behind these bars, and he has a stick, and on the other side of the bar there's a key and there's a piece of bread. And instead of looking for the key, he's trying to get the piece of bread. Instead of getting the key to unlock his existential situation, he is just trying to find short-term experiential satisfaction. This has also been my fault too. Do you know? You know, there's a part of me that very deeply, you know, found it unnecessary that like I started smoking, for example, you know. But then I thought, you know, maybe I got places to go after this world, you know. Or maybe I got a world to be. This side of the coin, we're being a world. We're being in the world. On the other side of the coin, we are, I don't know how to say it, like, from the context, we are a universal intelligence, but conceptually, we're a human intelligence. The human intelligence okay. So I'm gonna bring the notepad. Okay, so I have no idea why the notepad isn't showing. I guess there's no notepad. All right. So what can I say? I mean, I'm a human being. I've considered that there's multiple lives I'm living simultaneously. I can explain all these lives to the viewers. They're kind of obvious, you know, but I'll say it. For example, right now, I'm living a biological life. That means my life is based on the success of my biological system. I'm also living a psychological life. My success of my psychological life is based on my cognitive system. That means it's not enough to be healthy. Once you're healthy, now you can receive the world in a healthy way, but you still have to articulate that world. Another type of life, for example, is when I say the cognitive system, that's our life in language. Do you know our body is our life in matter? For example, our online in the future, everybody's going to have I mean, even they're starting to, but everybody's going to have a cyber life. Like, people don't realize what I'm doing. You know, this might sound bizarre, but some of the most conscious people are going online. Why? Because there's something coming with cyberspace that there is a chance that the human nature is a phase. Do you understand? It could be that we're just alive biologically to input our experiences of being a natural being into cyberspace. In case if anything happens, we have backup software of our naturalness, for example. So, you know, different people consider different lives to their own life. Do you know? And it's the same with archetypes. It just depends on what level you consider the life. If I want to consider a psychological life, do you know how many different lives I've lived in this one lifetime? Do you know how many different days I've woke up? One day I woke up and I thought, you know, I had the feeling of an inventor. One day I woke up, I had the feeling of an artist. One day I woke up, I had the feeling of being nothing. There's so many ways that our own life force is appearing to itself. The interesting thing is to know that the existential experience is singular. So what I'm trying to say is that your body is changing slower than how your mind changes to itself throughout the day. And the reason for this is because evolution has given this creature that we are a kind of clue that if you move behind your eyes before you move in front of it, your chances of survival are better. Do you understand? Imagination is an incredible survival tactic. Do you understand? Consciousness can be said to be the greatest resolution to survival. That means imagine an object scared of death before dying projects itself as non-physical. Can you guys take this in? The biological intelligence is so next level. It's like genius within genius, geniusly designed. Do you understand? Like, let me tell you something as someone who's a smoker, okay? First of all, smoking, it's fun in the short term. In the long term, it becomes an unnecessary shit, like, in your life, okay? So anybody who wants to quit smoking, quit before you smoke your first cigarette. That's the best time, you know, to quit. The second thing, this is gonna kind of like surprise the audience, based on like your audience is gonna suddenly realize how much I pay attention. So, as someone who smokes, after some time of coughing, the hairs, the tiny hairs in your throat, the cilia they're called, they kind of get over time, you know, a bit. Anyway, something happens, okay? The body has to cough up the unnecessary particles in the lung. So when sometimes a person coughs, I'm trying to speak about this elegantly, the projectile can go up to your sinuses. If you look at the body, if you look at inside the human body, it's hidden architecture. The body has a hidden architecture. I thought surgeons were psychopaths. Then I realized the body is one of the biggest mysteries in reality. What I'm trying to say is, inside your body, if you look at the canal of how your nose and how your throat are connected, okay, the body is designed in a sense where if you stop breathing, do you understand? It's as if there are multiple, how can I tell you? We even exhale from our ears. This is gonna be like, people are gonna be like, what? Yeah. You know, in movies when there's steam coming out of like Looney Tune ears, Like, that's the thing. Sometimes in the inner realms, a lot of the profound experiences of the logos, how I experience my inner realms, is through exhalations. I've shared this story numerous times in other talks, but the first time I discovered my inner realms, a thought stream moving faster than I can think myself. What I'm trying to tell you is that there is geometry everywhere. How the geometry applies to all the other geometry ends up becoming knowledge. Okay? Your knowledge is the small in the big. Human knowledge is the small in a giant unknown place. And this is why I get intense sometimes, because we're in an unknown world as unknown selves, but everybody is locked into an identity based on their past. You're not even being who you are now, because in order to be who you are now, that means you can't be the past. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying in regards to a psychological cognitive view. If I am identifying with the past, then who am I now? Do you understand? Let me tell you something bizarre, okay? My view on human efforts have changed. Okay, there were a time where I was like human-made stuff, like in for example, certain monotheistic religions, it says that all the good that comes to your life is from God, all the bad that comes to you is from yourself or from your desire towards the unnecessary, for example. In religion it says that, and some people like the atheists could be like, yo, this is kind of like God is saying I'm the only great thing, right? But the idea of religion is so incredible. People don't understand. God is being considered the greatest being, and the greatest being created you. Do you understand? That means you are the creation of the greatest being. That means if you were, what was that guy's name? Frenzo Ferrari? I don't know, I forget the guy's first name. But it's like you are the Ferrari. We are the Ferraris of the divine. And if Ferrari wants to sponsor me, no, I'm joking. Oh man. Oh man. You know, guys, I'll tell you something funny. My name is Amin, A-M-I-N, and in Farsi they say Amin, okay? And I remember one time, I think it was like I went somewhere and everybody was like, Amin, and I was like there was a moment where I was like, yo, is it like, do you know what I'm saying? But you know, all our names come from the past, right? Unless you create a name that has never existed before. Imagine there's someone named Johnson, you know, and then I mean, that's the last name, but it would be like Johnzo. Sorry guys, I'm being silly. Okay, let me focus here. So what do I mean by when other lives met other lives? I am saying that we as creatures in a world, as a being in a world, don't know the full extent of our being. Because we don't know the full extent of our being, we do not know if the tree has roots in a soil we cannot see. For example, all those people who consider that this world needed to have a creator, and this is in philosophy they call this the infinite regress fallacy. So what this means is that some people are like, okay, we're in a world of cause and effect, but who started the first cause? Because it's impossible. There had to be something before the first thing to cause the first thing. So this means it's an impossibility. This means that the way we have linguistically tried to make sense of duality, let me tell you what's going on. Our bodies are in a dualistic cosmos. Our minds are optionally experiencing a dualistic cosmos. There's a difference. Do you understand? That means I don't know like when my time's gonna come to leave this world, but I'm sure when that time comes, I'm gonna watch with the universe. I'm gonna watch Amin. I'm gonna watch my objective body. I'm gonna watch all the subjects I have been, and I will watch my life force and see what happens to it, because why am I being it? I am the continuity through all obstacles in my perception. Who else can continue through? And the fascinating thing is that I am not an I. I am not a letter. You know, I'm going to go into a quote tunnel of one of the most important people and one of the people who had one of the most impressions in my life, right? Some people, they go to a temple, right? And then they, like, you know, they worship a guru for like, you know, like 20 years, and they're like, guru, bless me. And the guru's like, you're not ready because you're asking me to bless you. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj is one of the most incredible stories, and it's just like Papaji and Sri Ramana Maharshi. Let me explain why. This man was a tobacco salesman in one of the poorest neighborhoods in India. Okay? And he was a person who was living such a simple, minimalistic life. And a very simple man. And the cool thing is, in Indian culture, I went to India, by the way, I saw a lot of unnecessary character, like inefficiencies and cultural issues, but something beautiful I saw. That means something, I don't know, let me tell you, because India has an esoteric angle to it, a metaphysical angle, the integrity for the material realm is different. Do you understand? That means somebody, let's say you're playing chess. Okay, I'm getting carried away. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, this simple man living a simple life. One day a friend of him in India comes and says, hey man, there's this enlightened guru, let's go see him. And this humble man, this simple man, he's living such a minimalistic life, having had no options of choosing through an ego, that in some sense life gives him an ego. You might not believe it, right? If you're selfless too much, life gives you an ego to protect you from yourself. Because if you dehumanize while you're human, why are you human then? Why have you come here? We are in the room of humanity. Advanced civilizations are found from within and then built outside. They're always found within, you know? Little did I know that in 2013, when I bought this Tibetan book called A Clear Mirror, where inside of it there was this metaphor that there are inner treasures to be revealed. There are inner treasures. You have been running after, like the Pirates of the Caribbean guy, you know, after a gold that is not in front of your eyes. Oh humanity, all those who are seeking to be the wealthiest, the most powerful entities in this realm. You don't understand where the power is coming from. The power is coming from a non-physical game of reality. That means you tell me, out of all the beings on this planet, okay, which beings deserve to be on this planet? Isn't that a good question? What makes you worthy of your own existence in your experience? Because that's the thing. This is why they say some philosophers have been that human nature is good. Why? Because it can discriminate. It can notice what evil is. It can notice, like, yo, we've built something, you want to destroy it, that's unnecessary evil, unnecessary shit. And I don't know, maybe you say there is a necessary evil, you know, sometimes, yeah. I mean, if we're lost in an artificial utopia, then it will be kind of like that film, right? I think, what was it? I think it was Judge Dredd, something like that. That movie, or yeah. I think that movie was one of the most advanced movies for its time, actually. Pretty much it's a utopia. This bad guy unfreezes from the ice and starts to wreak havoc in a utopic world. Utopia means, like, imagine a goody-goody world, like an all-good world, you know? But it's not growing. Do you understand? That means chaos and order. The poet Rumi shared something so fascinating. That he said, just like a bird needs two wings to fly, your mind requires chaos in order to function. If you go about your day throughout life, waking up, let's say logging into your conscious waking state in the morning, when you log into the conscious waking state in the morning, throughout the day, you're based on the patterns that you have accepted in the days before. Dear viewers, what I'm trying to say is you go about your day, you see good things and bad things, you see things you want, you don't want, you see your likes and dislikes, you see what you, let's say, are drawn towards and repelled by. That's the cool thing about human nature. Once it goes against itself, it repels itself. I'm trying to say, don't fear chaos. Understand that it's part of the order. Don't fear order. Understand it's part of the chaos. Oh, advanced human beings. Oh, advanced humanity. Do not fear duality. You were born beyond it. You were unborn beyond it. You understand, mysticism is realizing your presence is not in time, so it could not have been born, it's unborn, but your mind, the way it's projecting persona is based on considering the starting point of your body. That means it's really a very smart strategy to consider a start and an ending to something. Think about it. The creatures were living a life where it was just an unconscious start and an unconscious end. Think about it, guys. For billions of years, right? For how long? Unconscious beginnings, unconscious endings. We had no idea we were even existing to ourselves. At least now we know we're existing and then we don't exist. Isn't that incredible? At least we can know what's here before it disappears. But before, we couldn't even know what was here and it disappeared. So do not fear life. It's the rarest of the rarest opportunities to be an evolutionary creature in this situation. Because honestly, like, I'll tell you what happens with fear. Fear paralyzes. And you know what happens in that paralysis? You experience inefficiency. Everything that, I was, when I look at my failures, all my failures, there was one thing out of those moments I was afraid of doing. There was one thing. Whether I didn't trust myself, whether I didn't trust others, because I was very introverted and shy when I was younger, I didn't trust myself or others. You understand? I didn't trust, there was a point where I was like, if I can't be myself in this world, then how can I access other people's selves? You understand? That's the challenge. This is why it's never worth living an artificial life. Even Aristotle said it. He said, which is better, right? When a person lies, they have to keep multiple simulations alive. You have to remember so many different stories of yourself if you lie, right? But if you say the truth, you simplify how much energy your brain exerts throughout the day because you're functioning under one core real event. Do you understand? But when you lie, you jump into an abstract event. So your mind lives a life that is deviating from how it is being in the outer realms. This is why I looked at the spiritual community and everybody's like, yo, we're ready to become, non-dual energy and bliss. And I was like, wait a minute. How have you been loving everything in the world except your materialism? How have you been seeing everything else divine except your materialism? How have you not seen atheism as a spiritual practice? It's the spiritual people are like, no way. You tell me I'm as spiritual as a Zen Buddhist attaining nirvana and moksha under a tree by not having any belief in an ideology which is temporary. And so if I'm not attaching to ideas that come and go, how can I get bothered by them changing? You see what I'm saying? And the most important thing is, I want our species to have a responsibility to be able in advanced ways to acknowledge all the senses of self in the inner realms and all the senses of self in the outer realms. It doesn't matter if your psyche is fragmented, because at some point it happens on this planet. Okay, not on a deep level. Okay, when I say your psyche gets fragmented, I mean the psyche is kind of like a chunk of clay. And every experience you get is kind of sculpting, in some sense, this. Right? Like Michelangelo was known for like, I don't know, for like 30 minutes or like a long time to look at this like giant piece of rock. And then out of nowhere, he would like chisel the statue in one go. And people were like, yo, what are you doing? When he was like staring at the rock, and he's like, I'm working. And what that means is he's already began building the statue, sculpting the statue in his inner realms. And then in the outer realms, he knows exactly the reference points, the checkpoints, and he just applies it. Dear viewers, you can think of it as spiritual. You can think of it as a power of the mind. But what it is, we all have an access to a version of the world that can change before the actual version of the world changes. What this means is we have a freedom in an abstract reality prior to us accepting that sense of self in the abstract reality to externalize it. Because let me tell you what all of wisdom comes down to. Wisdom is to see something as it is, not as you are. If I want to see something as you are, it'll be just by the bias of my emotions. Do you understand? When it comes to building an advanced civilization, I was like, this is so beyond me. My emotions are not that relevant. Do you understand? I mean, sure, I'm saying like my emotional judgment is not that relevant. Do you understand? There's a way where our mind is based on our individual experience of life, and then this individual experience of life is happening in a collective position. So throughout the individual lifetime, there are actually moments where you're just actually functioning with the trust of a collective being. So the idea is, it's not like, yo, Power Rangers, all human beings, like in like small robots assemble into a giant robot. But it's rather realizing that the giant robot was there, and then the smaller pieces break apart. You understand? When I was watching the Transformers movie, my mind thought of like, what kind of mythology would these aliens have, right? Like, what kind of origin story would these Transformers have on their planet, right? And I thought that it would make sense that there was this one giant machine that was the whole universe, and then it just broke apart into pieces, and each machine attempted to recreate the universe again. Because you know why the idea of God is fascinating? The idea of God is for those who have discovered human limitation. For those who think human limitation doesn't exist in the outer realms, God doesn't make sense to you, because you can still, it's like you're still looking at this, it's like there's an engine, but you haven't opened up the hood of the engine to see it, so the engine could be anything. Spirituality is kind of opening the hood of yourself and discovering the mechanism of your own being. That's it. It's not even too spiritual, like, yo, your soul jumping, body hopping from life to life or world to world. There was a time my inner metaphysics went to a point where I felt all these talks are coming from a group of time travelers in the year 2574. There was a time I thought that, you know what I mean? The inner realms appeared that way, but I have seen my mind show me so many ways of the world that I'm like, yo, mind, I've seen you do so many different ways. One day I wake up, the mind's like, yo, it's a divine day. You know, one day I wake up, the mind's like, yo, what divinity? You're just a fool in a material place, you know? Excuse me. So, where am I going with this? I want the species to remember its multidimensional responsibility. You are responsible for all that is in your awareness. It doesn't matter if it's others. If they are in your awareness, you're responsible for the species. That's the advanced human beings. You want to know who's advanced among you on earth? It's all those who are caring for the bigger picture. Do you understand? Countries that go to war, they don't care for the bigger picture of the earth. They don't have long-term visions for the strategy. Those world leaders should instantly be deplatformed. Why? Because they have forgotten the long-term vision of the world is more incredible. All leaders come and say, yo, we have this vision. Our country's going to be so great by this year. It's going to do this. Hey, think about a bit further. Don't think about 100 years. Don't think about 70 years. Do you know some countries by the years like 70, they want to become incredibly advanced. Think about 1,000 years. Right now, whoever you are, maybe this might be the only, I don't know, maybe I can create the atmosphere here for you to experience this. But imagine for a moment that some part of the essence of you never died. That means think as if you were supposed to be. We had to be so conscious, like they would say yogis with Mahasamadhi. These guys were so conscious that they knew where they were going after this place. Just like somebody goes to a boardroom meeting and after that meeting they leave. Are you being responsible for your life beyond time, potentially? What would that even look like, right? Just for a second, fathom we were immortal, right? But imagine we were eternal, which means the awareness is endless, not the forms in the awareness. If we didn't die, it means that there is an eternal being alone in a room. Any idea that says there is no death in this world is saying eternity is alone. Or eternity alone is. Or rather than God is alone, God alone is. When you look at things through presence, a lot of your understanding of reality changes. When I would see people, I was like, yo, how is this person thinking? But then I was like, no. How is this being present to themselves? It's way beyond what they think they are. A person's presence is how they feel about their own thoughts before they communicate them. My presence is not these words. My presence is the awareness to how all of this feels before I say it. By the way, guys, I gotta part 2 coming up. I gotta end the stream, and I'll be back for part 2 right now. So bear with me.